Cool. So now we will learn a little bit about prompt engineering, right? So whenever we talk about agents, MCP, generative AI, ML, every time we talk about these keywords, in some way or other, we are basically trying to communicate with the AI ML, right? Means the machine learning algorithm or maybe with LLM models. So whenever we say that we are talking to these AI ML and models, that means this is a way to talk to our ML models which can help us to solve our problem. Now, when we talk to these ML models, we basically use some language or you can say some instruction, and that is basically called as your prompts. So the input to the LLM models are basically nothing but your prompts. So now their prompt can be anything. For example, just let's put it in a very simple way. Now if you have a baby or if you have anytime seen a kid, right, who is kind of 1 to 3 years old, so now whenever they cry you don't know what they are trying to say, right? Or whenever they say some words, when they try to talk at their initial age of 2 or 3, you are unable to understand. Why? Because their communication is not properly been developed so that they can communicate their emotions, right? But when they are 3 plus or 4 plus, easily they are able to construct sentence, construct words. They know how on where to use the words so that they can navigate through their day-to-day task, or they can communicate their emotions, right? And that is not nothing but your natural language, right? So now what we are trying to do, we are trying to do the same with your prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is nothing but how exactly you can talk maturely or try to form a sentence in a way so that your ML model can understand your input properly. That means it's a natural language to talk to your LLM models. So prompt engineering is basically nothing but how to talk to your ML models in a proper way, right? So now one of the thing, like I say, like our babies learn of their own slowly by looking at the surroundings, by talking to their friends, talking to their parents. The same thing also you can do. Means when you give a prompt to the ML model, sometime it will be good, sometime it will be bad, and slowly you will learn out of it. Or you can basically try to form some standard that okay, these are the things I will follow so that my prompt will be always correct, right? But before we deep dive into it, I'm telling you one thing very clear. 99% of time people figure it out of their own. 99% of time, okay, that's what I have seen almost, right? But still, just that 1% is like just to save some of your time. That's why I will give you 3 examples from my experience which helps me a lot. Okay, there is nothing like a long theory sessions I'm going to take, because I know that you folks will figure it out of your own. Okay, let's start with an example of how to write a proper prompt with a good and bad example. So let's take an example of a bad prompt where I'm telling that write test cases for login. So now this is a very vague and there is no context given. Why I am saying? So now when you say write test cases for login, you have not told it that what kind of application you are talking about. You have not shared what kind of test case to generate. You have not given the UI. You have not given context what kind of application it is. Then how it will understand that what test cases to write for login? That's why to make it understand that what login page you are talking about, what kind of test cases you are asking it to write, what we usually do, we give more context or more information, right? So if I put it in a more better way, then I can write that write 5 positive and 5 negative test cases for login API, where users authenticate using email and password, include valid and invalid email formats, empty fields, and rate limiting scenarios. So now this is basically a good prompt. This is basically a bad prompt, right? If you ask me, it is just about how you are communicating things, right? If you are good in communication, automatically your prompts are pretty good, right? Because just assume that the you are talking to a machine, right? So it doesn't know anything about you. So when you give it the prompt, always try to make it as elaborative as possible. So for example, this is the best example to understand, right? You have given how many test case, you have given what type of test case, you have given what kind of login API you are talking about, you told what kind of input it has, and you have also given an idea like what is the input criteria for it, right? So what are the consider or in scope criteria for it? It will then automatically understand, right? Makes sense, correct, folks? Now, this is about an example of good and bad prompts, but there are three techniques that I always use for prompt, that is context driven, role based, and chain of thoughts. Okay, these three are my favorites. So, and it has helped me a lot. That's why I'm sharing this. So now, what is this context driven? Context driven means when you are giving a prompt to a machine, always make sure that we are giving little bit of context around it. What do you mean by that? Include all relevant background details like test goals, API structure, or acceptance criteria. For example, based on the following login API schema, generate test case covering edge cases and error handling, and your schema will look like this. Return the output in tabular format. Now, when you give this one, what you are doing? You are giving a context that my email is a string, my password is a string. So this is nothing but context around it. So you are giving context about your API schema, which has two input field, one email, one password, and both are string. Now, when you write like this, what the ML model understands that when it writes the test case, it needs to consider the data type part too. That means it will automatically add test case for your 400 bad request. It will automatically try to send an email with number. It may automatically try to send a password with numbers. It may, okay, I'm not 100% sure, but it should usually. If it is a mature model, definitely it will do. So this is nothing but your context. I'm giving you one more realistic example about context, okay? So let's assume you are working on a project where you are asking it to generate some test script on Playwright. Okay, so you have given that, okay, generate test cases for generate test cases for my website. This is the URL. Let example xyz.com, right? So and you have given the prompt that write test script to log in into xyz.com, right, with username as maybe XYZ and password as ABC. This is the input you have given, right? So now logically it will automatically identify the locator by going through the website, and it will basically give you a test scripts, correct? Now that is fair enough. Now when we say context driven, now see how we can improve it with context. Now next time in the prompt what I have written, the same thing I have written in a more context driven way. Write Selenium automation script in Java for Chrome browser using Selenium 3.5 version to log in into this application, right? With username and this, password is this. Make sure to use page object model structure. So now with this, what happens? You have given a little bit of context around it that, okay, you want it in Chrome. You are using Selenium 3.5. That means it will automatically use system.property part, right? You have given it context that you are using Java. Or else if you directly give it, it may write it in Python, but you need in Java, right? So those are the context we are giving it. So now instead of saying write a Selenium script for login with username and password for this URL, you are also saying which version of Selenium, which language, which kind of model, page object model or pattern you are going to use. So now this will give you a more useful output rather than a random. Got it, right, folks? Now, the next technique is the role-based prompt. Role-based prompt is pretty much similar to this. So now, I have given one example over here, but I would like to continue the example which I have given before, right? So now, we have already given the prompt in our previous example in context driven that write a automation script using Selenium Java 3.5 version of Selenium, correct? Running in Chrome for xyz.com using username and password this and page object model that this, right? So this is now it will give you a script. Now instead of this, let assume you will give it in this way, correct? That you are a senior SDET, right? You are a senior SDET trying to design a test automation script, right, from scratch, right, trying to design a test automation script from scratch, and after that continue the previous one that we have written. That means your entire prompt would be like you are a senior estate trying to design a script from scratch to log in xyz.com using Selenium Java 3.5 for Chrome browser with username as this and password and this continuing page object model pattern. So now with this, what it basically do, it will basically try to give you a more role based output. So now when you see a senior estate, it may try to implement some design patterns into it, right? It may try to create a test data format out of it. Instead of hard coding the value, it may try to create a utility package for it, right? I'm just giving you an examples, okay? So these are the things it will automatically add when you keep roles. Now, if you ask me, in this example, do we need to write senior QA? It is not required. Why? Because we are always saying that Selenium and also it should all automatically figured out. But where exactly the role-based prompt comes into picture, let's assume you are asking to generate some test cases, right? So now test cases generation can happen at unit test level, can happen in functional test level. If you are asking for a unit test level, you may say that, okay, you are a software developer trying to create unit test. And when you are a QA for functional test, you can say that you are a senior QA or you are a software testing engineer trying to write test case. This is the perfect example I'm giving from real life experiences. Okay. So whenever I write unit test, I usually give the role of SD. When I write functional test, I give the role of a QA so that it will more concerned about the negative scenarios and all coverage of functionality part. And when we talk about unit, it will be more concerned about the coding part. Makes sense, right, folks? This is the role-based prompt. Now the last one is chain of thought. Chain of thought is basically think step, means encourage the model to think step by step before producing an answer. Think step by step and identify all possible validation scenarios for the payment API before writing test cases. So basically this chain of thought is very useful for me, at least when I have used, when my scenario is too long. That means instead of login, I want that, okay, it has to log in into the application. Then it need to verify that the username in the welcome page is same as the given, as we have given as the input. Then it needs to validate that the time, whatever time we are seeing, that is correct. That means the time zone and everything is correct. And then we need to validate that we have option for maybe orders or checkout, some of the options we are able to see in the homepage. Now, if we ask all those things together, sometime ML models used to complete the task quickly and give you a very crappy code. Crappy code means just complete the flow, but there is no patterns used, there is no structure has been utilized. In that case, what we basically try to do, we will ask a model that to think about it step by step and break our task into smaller chunks so that it would be much easier for it, right? So for example, you will tell that, okay, think step by step. First give me command to log in the page, second give me command to verify the timestamp, third give me command to verify rest of the options. So now it will basically break your entire test into three different sections, or may create you different methods and all call all of them in the main test scripts. So this is how our chain of thought prompt basically works. Instead of giving, so it will only useful when you have a very complex task to do. If you have smaller tasks to do, there is no need of chain of thought. But in real time scenario, we have complex tasks to do. Let us assume we are giving prompt to generate a unit test, which will create mock for service B. Service A is calling service B. It needs to create mock for service B. For that, it needs to understand the model of service B. So now if you give everything in single prompt, it will never work out. So you need to break. You need to first tell that, okay, you first write test for service A. Then you, second task, you understand service B, go through its model and figure out what kind of response it is giving to service A. Third, create a mock according to the study that you have done in section B. So now you have divided it into section A, B, C. A will take care of test cases of service A, B will take care of understanding service B, and C will take care of writing mock for service B. This is a very realistic example I am giving, right? So this is how basically the chain of thoughts part will work. So now connecting it all, AI, MCP, prompt engineering, you can have a proper understanding from here. Okay, AI, what basically whatever it discussed, I just put it in a more tabular format with the help of AI, so you guys can revise it before maybe going for interviews or somewhere, right? If they ask you this terminologies, it would be easy for you to explain. Makes sense, right, folks? Some of the examples we can give it a try also from the prompt side. Okay, so for example, Let assume we will try to give this good prompt and bad. Okay, let assume I'm giving this write test cases for login, right? So see, functional test case, positive, negative, it has given successful login, invalid username and password, it has created around case sensitivity, it has created security and limit test cases, usability UI test cases. So now it has created a lot of test cases for a generic login, right? Where a username and password would be there. Now let's try to give this one, right? Instead of generic, I'm giving something which is specific to my project maybe, or specific to my requirement. See, now it has given some request body. It has automatically created different type of request body. Can you see? Negative test case, 400 bad requests, 401 unauthorized, 429 too many requests, and but still it skipped 404. But anyway, so now five test cases it has generated for us. So instead of this, let assume I'm giving it like this. Write positive and negative test cases for the login API with 100% coverage. Let assume, okay? And let's see what it is doing, okay? Input format validation. It is validating our empty emails and everything. Remember, for 400. See, it has created a lot of 400 account status and security it has created. So it is basically try to play around with all possible options that we have, right? So now senior software testing engineer. Senior software, right? Same command we are giving, okay? So now if you notice, let's try to compare what we have given in the first one and what we got in the second one. So when we have given this one, it has given expected response, successful 200, 200, 200, negative 400, 401, 429. Okay, let's see what it has done over here. So now when we given the role, it has given expected outcome 205, pretty much same. And here it has given 400, 401, fifth attempt, for a little bit of more context it is given in the fifth attempt, right? Little bit on the role based, it has added little more information around it, we can say, right? Let's try to play around with more with a different command, right? Or a senior asset. Let's see if it is adding some more, what kind of changes it is doing, right? So 200 is pretty much same, 400. So with role change, it is not impacting a little more on this. Let assume we are seeing it like a developer, okay? Software developer. Mostly pretty much it is taking care of the similar thing, right? Not much change, right? Pretty much same. So that's why I told in test cases you may not see a huge difference, but yes, it will make difference when you are asking, for example, you are writing a unit test for it, then definitely it will make a little bit of change on it, right? But overall there may not be much changes, right? But yes, when you are writing unit test, usually we keep the role as STEs. When you are writing a functional test, we keep the role as QA. You can play around with these prompts more, try to give more kind of similar to this, right? Chain of thoughts also you can give use Gemini or GPT, or whichever you are using, right? And then try to, why I'm using Gemini, because later on we will play around with Gemini apps and everything so that it would be easy. Okay, that's fine. And it has some free API keys, because I'm trying to give examples which you can practice. Makes sense, right, folks? Cool, then let's move ahead and try to do some more exercise around how to create your own AI apps. Okay.